Hey everybody, welcome back to NikkiT.live. I'm your host Nick Taylor, and today I'm joined by Kelvin Omereshone. I believe I got that almost right, Kelvin. Okay,
Almost.
cool, cool, um, cool. This is the first time we're chatting. I know we've DM'd a bit and stuff. For folks, I feel like there's a lot of people on at least Twitter that know who you are, but for folks that might not know you, would you mind kind of, I guess, giving a bit of a background? You know, if you want to talk about how you got into tech, people always enjoy that too, but just share as much as you'd like to and shamelessly plug away.
Sure. Thank you for having me here, Nick. And I've been looking forward to this one for like a long time. Finally we're doing it. So my name is
Yeah.
Kelvin. I am a full stack JavaScript developer, the lead maintainer of Sails.js, which is an MVC framework for JavaScript. I also built the Boring JavaScript Stack, which is what we're going to talk about a lot here.
Yeah.
I've been developing professionally since 2018. I've done a ton
Okay.
of open source work, ton of technical writing. So probably written over maybe 200 plus articles as of this time.
Oh wow, that's
So
quite a few.
yeah,
No, that's super
yes,
cool.
and yeah, that's me.
Cool. Nice, nice. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop some links where people can give you a follow. And yeah, so you chatted about open source, and that kind of brings us to Sails.js. So
Mhm.
um, Sails.js is a open source JavaScript framework, and I guess for folks who might not be familiar with it, what is Sails.js?
Yeah, sure. So Sails.js is an MVC framework. I know these days we don't talk much about MVC, but in the style of Ruby on Rails,
Okay,
PHP Laravel, um, but Sails have a lot of uniqueness to it because it was built by Mike McNeil to help him build real-time Node.js application really, really fast. So
okay,
we have real-time tech built into the like built into sales, and
okay.
it just have this complete suite of, so if you're looking for like a full stack solution to like building JavaScript from top to bottom, from the server to the client,
Okay.
sales is just like very easy and very intuitive to use. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize it was for real time as well. Like, I knew it
Mhm.
had, I know it, I mean, we'll dig into this, but I know there's an ORM, object relational mapper in there that you can wire up
Yeah.
to do your REST client. But when you say real time, like, do you mean WebSockets or?
Yeah, WebSocket. So
Okay.
like from the very first versions of Sales, Mike used Socket.io to sort of
Okay. Yeah.
like make real-time sales native. So from the get-go, every route in sales is supercharged to also be a WebSocket route. So it
Okay.
just makes
I didn't
building it in
realize
real
that.
time really cool. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it could be, I guess maybe when I use it. So I mentioned briefly before the live
Mhm.
stream that I actually used Sails.js for a project. Just side note, but the project was like a friend of mine is big into cryptocurrency. He runs like server farms and stuff, and he needed a way to like basically you physically put the servers like in like a building, and then you obviously have to turn them all on and stuff, but you have to configure each of them. And depending, regardless of whether you like cryptocurrency or not, it's more the technical aspect here. But um, basically, you would turn on the machine, and then there was like it would load up with kind of like a web page that you would have to fill out to say like, this is the type of coin, this is the configuration it needs to be able to mine, do some mining and stuff. And like, it's one thing if you have like five servers, like in a server rack, but this is, we're talking like hundreds, thousands of them. So basically, I ended up using Sails.js, and we put it on a Raspberry Pi, and he's since improved it. But basically, we were able to go to each IP to hit the that particular server, and it had a web page that you could go to. And basically, I was using Sails.js to do the form post to it. Um,
Mm,
and it seemed to work
nice.
well. But that's basically been my experience with Sales. But again, I actually didn't know that it supported real time, which is that's pretty compelling. And Yeah, just something I didn't know. I guess
Mhm.
kind of the theme, like you always talk about this, and this is the title of the live stream, but full stack JavaScript with the boring JavaScript stack. So when you say that, I know it sounds catchy for sure, but I guess what's the reasoning behind that name?
Yeah, so it's like the second time I'm naming the stack. The
Okay,
first time was so back in 2018 when I wanted to build salescast.com, which is like a platform to teach sales because I found sales, I fell in love with it,
okay,
and I wanted to like educate people to like learn it. So I wanted to do a course platform akin to Laracast.
okay,
And yeah, so I was like, okay. So back then I was a big user of Nox
okay.
and Vue. I still use Vue. So of course I was going to build a spa, right? Which is going to
Yeah.
be the it's going to be a Nox client and then a sales API, which was really,
Okay.
really very, very popular at the time. So when I did that, again, I was a team of one. I was the only one working on this. And then I started noticing some like the facade of you build an API to get an SPA was sort of like crumbling right
Yeah.
like just crumbling down right before my eyes. I saw that why do I need to maintain two separate repos and it's
Hmm.
just JavaScript code? Can't I have both in the one place and then still have an
Okay.
SPA, but let sales control the routes? Because I really don't like where I have to do double routing, where the backend has routes, the front end have routes. Can't the routes just be in one place?
Okay.
And why do I have loading spinners for pages that needs data? Why don't I just make sure that I get the data before the page loads so that the loading
Okay.
spinner, the browser is already giving a loading spinner. Why do I need one extra? So I was seeing all this pain, and then I thought there should be a way to like do this. So I was already having this thought in my mind, and
Yeah.
just as if I attracted the knowledge of knowing about Jonathan Reinick from the Laravel ecosystem, who worked on Inertia JS, is a in theory, he had the same pain that I had, which is why do we need to have separate repos to build
Okay.
single page applications today? So Inertia sort of like piece everything together, which is like you use the best part of your UI language. I call them all
Okay.
UI languages, which is Vue, React or Svelte, and
Yeah.
then you use a robust backend which give you everything: file upload, authorization, authentication. And he found this nice way to piece them together for the Laravel folks, but it made it framework agnostics with adapters. So I wrote
Okay.
the adapter for sales, and then it was magical. So back then I called it Vite Stack, for Vue, Inertia, Tailwind, and Sales. Then Rit for React, Inertia, Tailwind, and Sales. But I was like, you know what? I think I don't like the name changing all the time. And
Okay.
JavaScript ecosystem is so exciting, is so shiny,
Yeah.
and I love the concept of boring tech because I believe the things you should be excited about are the problems you're solving, not the tech you're using. Of course, you should like the tech you're using, but it
Yeah.
shouldn't always be front and center. It should just be behind the scene and just let you be awesome. So I'm like, let's call it the boring JavaScript stack. Like, if
Okay.
every other JavaScript stuff is exciting, I want mine to be boring so that the people who use it, they want to ship stuff and they just want tech that don't change so often, tech that
Yeah.
is predictable because it's hard to see predictable tech these days, especially in the JavaScript ecosystem where your stuff breaks but you don't know why it breaks.
Hmm.
You're pulling your hair out. So I want it to just boring and predictable. So that's
Okay.
the name, the boring JavaScript stack.
Yeah. No, and the thing too is the reality is like it's one thing when there's devs out there just trying stuff like today I'm building a Next app, tomorrow I'm doing a remix
Mhm.
and stuff, and that's all great. It's good to dig into those things for sure, but like typically once a project starts, it's pretty, I wouldn't say rare, but you don't often say like, okay, we've been working on Nux for 6 months, let's switch to Remix, or let's go to Next.js or Astro now, and it's kind of to your point where like there's a lot of Ryan Florence who works at Remix and Shopify. He has this quote because people are talking about legacy code all the time. It's like, oh, all this jQuery stuff. Let's rewrite it in React. And he's like, it's not legacy code. It's called revenue code because like
Mm,
that
I
that
like
app
it.
was built like I don't know, like jQuery's been around forever, but like if there's no reason to switch jQuery to like React and the site is working well, it's profit, you're making revenue, like unless there's a strong business case to switch for some reason, it's like it's okay. Like, yes, it might not be as fascinating as a dev taking on this project, um, but it kind of gets to your point where it's like it's cool to have cool tech, and I love cool tech too. But at the end of the day, you kind of nailed it. It's like we're solving problems and we're providing services, and it's not like somebody who's on your website is going to care that you're using React 19 or Nuxt
Mhm.
or whatever, because they're just like, the form works, I can submit it. They're more annoyed if it's like I can't access your site or it's slow, like they don't. I mean, obviously somebody technical would probably look in the dev tools and go, "Oh, that's why it's slow," or something. But in
Yeah.
general, so no,
Mhm.
I think that's a cool name, and I I'm kind of glad you said that too, because like when I was using Sales back then, this was like I think 2018, so a little while ago, and I thought it was on the way out, sales.
Mm.
I'm not saying it
Mhm.
was. It's just I had that impression because there was other things coming out. I can't remember the other project. I think it's from like some Node JS organization. The name's escaping me, but regardless, I was like, oh,
Mhm.
I guess this is like a kind of like a dead project, but it clearly isn't. And you're literally a maintainer there, so I guess I guess to kind of touch on like the open source aspect of this, like I guess what's been happening in the Sails.js ecosystem. Like, yes, it's the boring stack, so it's like but I guess kind of what stuff has been going into the project aside from just general maintenance.
Yeah, definitely. So it's been I I became the lead maintainer last year at SalesConf. So SalesConf is
Okay.
our annual conference which I organize.
Okay.
So from then it's been really interesting making sure because I know the general sentiment, especially in JavaScript ecosystem, once a tech is like stable and
Yeah.
there's no blog post for something new, it's always termed as dead. But
Yeah.
like it's so far from the truth. We've been in fact the most thing I'm excited about is that I don't know if you still recall, Sales uses Grunt
Yeah.
for the asset pipeline, which is way old and who
Yeah.
wants that, right? So the thing I wanted first when I joined, I was like, I really want a more like I want to see what a modern asset pipeline would be for sales. And I did a lot of experiments. I tried to go with the new and greatest and shiny, which is Vite,
Yeah.
but it didn't work for our use case. But
Okay.
what ended up working for us is RS Build, which is
Okay.
from the folks at ByteDance.
Yeah.
So we have a new asset pipeline which is still in beta. I'm still working on it. Might be released and made like part of the scaffolding at SalesConf next year. So it's called
Okay.
Sales Shipwright, based on
Okay.
iOS build. And just like so the whole ethos of sales is like we don't want you to worry about things you're not supposed to worry about. So once you
Hmm.
scaffold the project, you'd never have to touch a config. It just work and it's fast. It's using iOS build, which
Yeah.
is like almost faster than Vite. Even I think it's the last time I checked, it's 3 times faster than Vite. But of course, there's always going to be room for that. So I just wanted something that, and again, why I like them, the folks at ByteDance, they sort of like they're invested in this tech because for them it's not just tech, it's
Yeah.
business. So they invested in making sure RS build is really good for their pipeline. So I like to like rest on their shoulder to just like bring that to sales. So I've been using Shipwright. In fact, the
Okay.
scaffold you're going to scaffold is based on Shipwright. It's already running RS builds today, but it's not
Okay.
in the upstream as of now. Then of course, there have been talk of for Sales 2.0. We don't have
Okay.
a timeline for that yet, but it's going to be moving to the next version of Express because Sales is based on Express. So
Okay.
we're
Yeah.
going to like move the next version of Express going to lead up to like breaking change in 2.0 and some other things we have in the pipeline. We also have been working on an official Sales VS Code extension, which
Okay.
is really something I'm pumped about, which is because we don't like TypeScript in Sales. You could use
Okay.
TypeScript for your UI. So right now with Shipwright, you could write TypeScript for your UI. But with Sales Code backend, we don't work with TypeScript. But that doesn't mean you can't have editor experience. So with
Yeah.
tech like language server protocol, we could give you the same experience as if you've written Sales in TypeScript.
Okay.
So I'm working on that. So I'm working on a language server protocol and a VS Code extension, and a
Okay.
lot of things I'm working on. I like an official, no, not official, but sales mail, which just makes mailing really simple, which is
Okay.
something I'm currently adding new features on. So there's just been a ton. And like one thing that folks have really hated, I hated it, was our docs on mobile,
Okay.
because I like to read documentation on the mobile phone, but our
Yeah.
docs were just not responsive at all because it was written decades ago.
Okay. Okay.
So I had to work on making sure it's something that I hold dear, because now I can just go to the sales doc and read everything on it. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's some of
Cool.
the things we've been working on, and a lot other
Yeah,
things.
no, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to upgrade the build pipeline because that speeds up development.
Mhm.
You know, like I didn't realize RS build was a thing, but I knew RS pack, but RS pack is uses RS build under the hood. I dropped a link to it, but there's
Mhm.
a question in the chat. Forgive me if I'm not saying your name correctly, but I believe it's Abimanu. Saying, "Hi Nick, I would like to become a developer advocate for some new JS framework. Can you please ask Dominus how to get such a job?"
I For a framework of a company, I think dev advocates are mostly for dev tools.
Yeah.
So it is like, yeah, so it depends on what you want to. So I used to be a dev advocate previously. So I think I've done two dev advocacy jobs before
Okay.
I became like full time working for myself and open source. So mostly you just, if you're going to be a dev advocate, you need to know the tech, because
Hmm.
you're going to be advocating for both. So you're like the bridge between the dev users and the dev makers. So dev users are people using the dev tools, and the makers of
Hmm.
the tech. So you need to be able to like know the tech more than the average user in order for you to help solve problems, help teach, help go to conferences, and also like tell people how awesome the tech is, and also take feedback. So if you cannot speak the lingo of the dev users, you won't be able to take their feedback back to the
Yeah.
maker. So you need to start making free content out there about techs that you like, mostly tech that you like. Because if you don't like a tech, you probably won't be a good advocate of the tech.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
need to like the tech, use the tech, or I don't know what you're gonna advocate for.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I agree with that. And the thing too is, uh, all the JavaScript frameworks, if that's what you really want to laser focus on, they're all open source, and
Hmm.
the best way you can do some of the things that Kelvin's mentioning is contribute to the project. You know, fix like start off small, maybe fix some issues, update the documentation. 100% like write blog posts and stuff. Like I know one of my friends, Anthony Campolo, he
Yeah.
was a music teacher, and then he got into tech, but he found Redwood JS, which is another JavaScript framework. It's
Hmm.
a React meta framework, and he just started writing blog posts about it, doing videos, and then they invited him to the core team because even though he wasn't contributing code, he was advocating for them in a different way. And I'm not saying that that's guaranteed that you will get a
Of
job
course.
or become part of a core team, but yeah, it really is just putting yourself out there. And given that they're all open source, your best bet is contributing to those projects in some way, I think. And that
Hmm.
brings up another great question, Kelvin. Obviously, Sails.js is open source as well. Are are contributions mainly from the core team right now, or do you get a lot of external contributions, or is it a mix of both?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix of both. So we have like every 2 weeks sync with the core team where we fix um mostly vulnerabilities in our
Okay.
packages, and also look at PRs from the community. So we
Okay.
we always take like there's actually one that I'm yet to look at, which is to our sales post sales postgres adapter.
Okay.
So it's like just adding something new. So we always, if it's good, if it looks good, we're definitely going to add it. And of course, it's not mandatory. If you make a PR, it's going to get merged. But if
Yeah.
if it has if it's a bug fix, if it's a feature request, we're going to look at it and just, okay, we want this. There we might ask for changes as always, or we
Hmm.
just merge it if it's 100% good.
Yeah. Now, I remember when I worked at Dev.to, I was leading front end over there, and then we accepted a lot of PRs from the community. But early on, like we didn't really have an official roadmap that when I like kind of started there, and even before I started working there, I was contributing to the project for a couple years, and that's how I ended up on the team. But um, I think we made a mistake early on, which was like we kind of like somebody's like this would be a cool feature, and then we were like okay and put it in, and some of
Uh,
those things we had to pull out over time. Like it was
yeah.
great that people were enthusiastic about it, but this kind of gets to your point about like being a maintainer. Definitely lessons learned, but just because somebody puts up a PR or like it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that like you might not even want this in your project, even though it's a cool thing. It might make
Hmm.
more sense living in user land, like a separate package, or maybe it's just something
Yeah.
that you document or something like that. But that's one thing I noticed, and then the other thing too is like I'm curious about your experience in maintaining stuff too, because like I've maintained a couple large things at like Dev2, Netlify, and then open sourced, and um, you know, a lot of times like I know there's newcomers who are very excited to contribute to open source, and then it's like I don't know. Sometimes they get overexcited and they'll just create a PR for an issue where they haven't been assigned it yet, or like maybe we haven't even triaged it yet, and so we constantly have to say like can you just please see the contributing documentation. Sometimes I close the PR. I say like politely obviously, but I say like we haven't approved to work on this issue yet. Thanks for contributing, but please read the contributing guidelines. I'm going to close this for now, kind of. And it's not to deter people from contributing. It's just there are guidelines to projects, and like every project's different. I mean, there's some similarities for sure, but I'm curious if in your experience in maintaining, is it been similar or
Yeah, it's definitely. So there's always this, like, your job as a maintainer is mostly to say no than to say yes to things.
yeah,
Because yeah, I know you go to it's people don't like that. People, and from what I've said, everyone, I know it's a pain for you, but as a maintainer, we sort of like see the bigger picture than you do. You probably just
yeah,
see the one that affects you now, but it's an orchestra, right? The entire system. So if we change this stuff for you, it might not be good for someone else,
yeah,
or it might be a maintainer overhead. Like
mm-hmm.
it's going to be like a pain for you to like make work.
Yeah,
So you have to say no more than you say yes. You're more like you have to have taste of what you want. So yes, of course, it's open source, but again, when you have taste, it's like, okay, this is my vision, because open source is a
mm-hmm.
gift, and I wrote this because I myself am going to use it. So if I don't see myself liking this stuff you're bringing in, because at the end of the day, it has to come to a single person or group of people deciding, okay, this should stay or this should not enter into the
Yeah,
the project. Yeah, so it's always going to it's hard, especially when people bring features
mm-hmm.
and you'll be like, yes, that is good, but how many subset of the users of sales today, for example, will use this feature? And
Yeah,
does it warrant us putting something new for just you? It doesn't really make a lot of sense to do that.
yeah,
So it's always going to be like this you have to glean. So like
mm-hmm.
it's 80/20 principle again. So 80% of all the features requests should be a definite no. Then that
Yeah,
20 that's going to enrich the ecosystem, you as a maintainer have to be cautious enough to know and to
mm-hmm.
get that 20. Not everyone is not going to be happy, but at the end of the day, if you bring in everything into the project, is going to be just bloated. And then everyone that
Yeah,
brought in those stuff, they're going to leave for something lighter. And because, oh, it's become more heavy, it's become more this. But you already want
mm-hmm.
to bring all the power, right? So you have
Yeah,
to say no. Yeah.
yeah, and also in terms of the feedback, like you're saying with the PRs, like sometimes people have great ideas, but it's not how you want to execute on it. So like
Yeah.
that's where the good feedback comes in. Like I don't know, like I'll give a maybe a trivial example, but like you were mentioning like the Postgres adapter for sales,
Hmm.
and like so
Yeah.
there's set it's been a while, but I'm sure you just say like I'm importing this adapter because I'm using Postgres or I'm using MySQL or
Mhm.
whatever, and like somebody naively could just create one big module that says like, you know, okay, if it's Postgres, do this, like
Yeah.
it's a good
Yeah.
idea that you're supporting the databases, but that's not how it should be built. And and that's where
Hmm.
like feedback can come in and stuff. That's kind of like a not trivial example, but a kind of like an obvious one, I
Yeah.
think. But yeah, just being able to abstract things out when it makes sense or make it composable, and
Hmm.
it's the thing with frameworks or just things in general is it's very complicated to make something simple. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
simple
Yeah.
not meaning that it's like it was trivial to build, but like
Hmm.
the API is simple. Like React is a great example. Just render and stuff.
Hmm.
Like there was a lot of iterations on that, but like it could have been more complex. But they put in a lot of work to get an API that kind of made sense and was easy to use. So
Yeah.
and these are things that like I think people just coming in might not even be aware of. So,
Hmm.
um, but
Yeah, and it's always like I see it as a rookie move because I have been one. So like my first tech job, I got into, and I saw the code. I'm like, oh, what's this mess? Let's rewrite everything to this
yeah,
something
yeah,
really nice. And my team leader was like, no, we can't. Like, why would you want to do that? There's reasons why the
yeah,
things work today as they are, right? So it's always going to be like this. It's very enthusiastic, but in reality, in the real world, things are the way they are because of pros and cons, trade-offs and
hmm,
gains. So what are we optimizing for? Like if you optimize for everything, then you can't the you won't find your crowd because if you be like everyone should be the users of this tech,
hmm,
no. So you got to optimize for certain things, people that think certain way, that want to use this, that like these trade-offs, and they don't mind these trade-offs to use the tech. So that means
yeah.
you have to say no to the features that want to add those trade-offs you actually want to take out to use the tech. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah, I know for sure. And that's where like stuff like plugin systems come in or whatever,
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
like we don't
Hmm.
want this in the project, but we made a plugin system so you can just put in whatever you want. And
Yeah.
it's like and this gets back
Hmm.
to the like how you architect things, and these are things that might people coming from the outside might not be aware of, and it's uh
Yeah.
but yeah, it's but I think I've talked with like my good friend Becca several times about this and many others, but like I think that's what's interesting about open source, especially like if you're looking for work or like you don't have real world experience yet. I know there's takes where like I think Theo Brown, who's like big YouTuber and dev, but
Yeah.
he's like contributing to open source is bad, but it's kind of nuanced. Like the video, I think it's more like if
Mhm.
you're literally starting off in open source, don't go try and contribute to React. It's probably not a good thing. It's just too
Yeah.
intimidating, and that project has so much context. But anyways, there's a couple people in the chat.
Yeah,
Hey
sure.
Fuzzy, how's it going? Good to see you. Hey Jean Philippe, good to see you too. Um, but yeah, so it's like I lost my train of thought there, but yeah, I completely lost my train of thought. Sorry.
It's fine. It's all
Yeah,
good.
but yeah,
Yeah, and so for like your point on making sure that people could plug in, I think sales sort of like does that really well. In fact, I'm gonna have to work on it like a course, either free or paid, to like just from the beginning, sales knew that it wouldn't want a lot of things inside. So you just
yeah,
have a lot of escape hashes in hooks, generators, and adapters. Like those are the three ways to like make sales do whatever you want. So you could
yeah.
write a sales hook. Like Shipwright, we in the core team, we also use the sales hook to
Okay,
hook into sales. So most of every part of sales is a hook. So the router is a hook,
okay,
the ORM is a hook as well. So they come first party, but they are all just plug away into that hook system. So just make it
okay,
that so that anybody can override anything. You could write your own hook to do whatever
okay.
you want to do. It's just it just plays.
Okay. No, that's nice that you have that primitive that can be used like that.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, Fuzzy says hello. I don't know if you know Fuzzy.
nice having you.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I think I've seen him around online.
he's
Yeah.
I didn't know he was Scottish until I heard him speak on a on a Twitter space. Uh, I'm a
Oh,
fan. I'm a fan of the Scottish accent though. But yeah, cool,
okay.
cool, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'm curious. Do you want to maybe like I'm happy to just share my screen. Do you want to maybe talk a bit about the project? Like I don't know if we want to do a full blown project because just for time's sake, but uh,
Yeah, I
would
don't
you?
think so. So, mhm.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you'd be cool
Mm,
with like maybe showing some things, maybe just even how to bootstrap the project and stuff. Or okay,
yeah, for sure, for sure.
cool.
Do you want me to share mine? Then we could share yours. I have this.
Yeah, yeah, go for
Is
it.
it possible to do that? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
have
just on
this.
the
I want to share.
where we both are on
Yeah,
video.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So just go
share
ahead and
screen.
share your
This one.
screen. And I'm just gonna copy the link to it. So just give me a second here.
Okay.
We'll do guest share. And guest sharing screen. Boom, boom, boom. I might need to resize it. We'll see.
Okay.
Just give
It's
it a
loading.
second here. Okay, no, it
Oh wow,
seems to be
it
okay.
looks good.
Okay, I'll just
Yeah.
make it a little
So
bigger. Okay, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
used. Okay, yeah, sure. So I wanted to show this because just like a refresher, so that when we get into things, folks understand. So I used this to teach an internal onboarding at the company like last
Okay,
week. So I thought it's fun to share. So this is like the sales application, like how it's architected.
okay,
Um, you know, so this is typical where you have a client request, HTTP request, it comes in via the router, and then
okay,
classic MVC, like um leave a thumbs up in the chat if you still use MVC frameworks and stuff, because I know these days in JavaScript land, I don't know what we use in terms of architecture, but I'm not sure it's
yeah,
MVC. So
yeah.
yeah, so the right.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry, go ahead.
so the router will, yeah, so the router will route to like the controller, which of course which would handle the request. Then we could make queries because we need a database. A real app almost always need a database, and then we'll use the model to talk to the database to get data from the database, and then we could
Hmm.
render the view, which is, so if you're doing an API, you get JSON. If you're doing classic server-side rendering, we've always have SSR before the hydration voice, so you
Yeah.
could do HTML. Yeah. So this is how sales work. Then inertia, which is the boring JavaScript stack. This is how the boring JavaScript stack works. So you have your client browser, you make a request, it touch sales via the routes, and then you do your server-side logic. And then with inertia, you
Okay,
send a server response. But this response is going to be a Vue or React or Svelte component.
okay. Yeah, I'm gonna drop a
Yeah.
link to
And then,
Inertia. That's a pretty cool
okay.
project.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's a 2.0 coming out which blows my mind. I could geek off about that like for long. And then you do all your styling with Tailwind CSS because we believe Tailwind CSS should be like the the most boring, simple way that is not shiny to just style your stuff, and you have features over it, and you do that.
Okay,
So yeah, so that's it. That's how the boring stack works. So remember, Inertia is the one that makes sure you can send Vue, React, or Svelte components.
okay,
So if I show, yeah, so let me show the boring stack, what you'd get. So I'm using CZ. I always like
okay,
using CZ because it doesn't have any browser history. So I
okay,
could just, yeah, I use it for dev mode to
okay,
like develop stuff. So this is the boring stack. And what I want to show is mostly what's in the stack, because people will be like, okay, what do you have here?
okay,
What make up the boring stack? So, like I said, Vue, React, or Svelte. Like my perfect React, Vue, or Svelte dosage is using the component, because I believe that's where they shine. Every
yeah.
other thing just layer a word of complexity that your app doesn't need, like state management. In the boring stack, you'll find that 80% of the time you don't need a client side API
Hmm.
to do anything, and
Okay,
that
gotcha.
just take a world of complexity out of your stack. So the Tailwind CSS, of course, for styling. So that means any Tailwind CSS based UI library. Like I use Prime View. You could use Rade, you could use Shatsian or whatever you use. you could use it here. Then of course inertia, then sales does all the heavy lifting, which is why it's the foundation. So authentication, things like authentication that you probably need like a third party package to do, no longer needed. Things like OAuth with like Google or GitHub comes in with like a hook. So sales wish is a hook that does it. Then authorization is built in with policies. Then Waterline for talking to your database. I like Waterline so much because it's database agnostic. And by default, when you start your project, we don't want you to worry about what database to use. We have sales disk, which is bundled in the stack. So you just write your queries as if you have a database and it will work. So that when you have a database, just plug it in, put your connection string, and it just work. There's
Okay.
WebSocket support, like I've mentioned. The file upload is so trivial and so beautiful because we use node streams for file upload using Skipper, which is
Okay.
the body parser that we use. It's so I did a video last maybe a couple of weeks back, and it was just mind-boggling. You could upload to S3, Cloudflare 2, DigitalOcean Spaces, Cloudinary, wherever. Then we have shell
Okay.
scripts for jobs, all built in, then sales mail for mail. So you like the complete suite of everything you would need today. So let's see a boring project. So I'm going to show the, so I'm working on the second template called Ascent. The first one is called Mellow, which just gives you authentication, authorization, user management, email, um, email verification, and all that. So if we start this,
Okay.
yeah, let me see. Okay, I think, okay, let me git be just gonna move here because
Okay.
I was messing around too much these days. So I'm gonna move there and I'm gonna do sales there. And whoa. Okay,
I'm just gonna check the
let
chat
me,
for a sec.
yeah, I will probably, let me do ridiculous still. Like, this is when you think a lot.
Oh, yeah, it's all good. The other thing too is this is the beauty of live streaming. Nothing's ever perfect. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
it's I've been messing around with a lot of stuff. So I wanted to demo one of the project, but that is like it's like the lab right now, so it's definitely not gonna work. So this is the template you get today. I'm probably demoing the view one, but I will
okay.
show you the code base for the React one as well. So this is what you get. You get like this starter, which you could log in, you could sign up, and all that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so what I would do, maybe I need to, let me go to ridiculous, because again, messing around with everything. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna
it's all
do
good.
mail, and I'm gonna just change this to log.
Oh, thanks for the follow,
Yeah.
Diggy. Long live Chaos Twitch Camus. That's a
uh,
long handle.
okay. So I'm gonna sign up. I want to use the log for the mail so that we don't
Okay.
have to go to. Okay, so yeah, that should work.
Okay.
So now if I sign up, yeah, I don't know. It's public, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you could log in. Yeah, so I don't know. I appreciate the fact that when you out of the box, you don't need to worry, okay, is my email set up to get that?
Okay.
It just outputs to the console, right? Which
Okay.
you
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
just grab. Yeah, you just grab your the link
Oh,
and
the
you
the
paste
the
it
the
in.
validation
Yeah,
link. Okay.
yeah, exactly. So you don't have to do all that. So you paste it there. What did I do? No match.
Invalid criteria. I cannot. Oh,
Yeah,
looks like a SQL error maybe.
yeah. Let's see. Oh, this is the thing with demos. Doesn't matter declare data type. Oh,
Oh
again,
yeah.
I have changed it. I've changed too much right now. But
it's all
um,
good. It's all good.
yeah. So what I would do, let's see. Give me just one sec. Give me one sec. How did I fix that one the other time? Let's see the React
I like
sales
that
L.
mellow React.
Yeah, Metal Cam React. So this one is, let me see, did it work? No, this
Seems to be
MRF. Yeah, I think this one was, I was messing around with doing what's it called? Monorepo,
oh, okay,
and
yeah.
I was using npm workspaces, and for some reason it didn't work well with the templates, so it
Okay.
just messed up a ton of stuff. But I would get that up. So while that is going up, let me show you the code. Let's use
Okay.
Melo React. Then when it comes up, we're going to do the demo again. Um, so this is the folder structure for the boring stack. Everything backend goes in API.
Okay.
Everything front end, which is your React components, goes in assets. So it goes in assets. I'm going to start because I know a lot of people here will be more React than
Okay.
sales lovers. So
Quick
when you
quick
open JS,
question. Do you
yeah.
mind just zooming in one or two times? Just
Oh,
I can see it
okay,
fine.
yeah,
It's just if people are catching the recording later. Cool.
okay, yeah. I
Perfect.
think I is it good. Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
that's good.
cool. Okay, cool. So you have all your pages. So all your pages are in JS/pages. Then you
Okay.
could have your file. So this is your home page, your basic home page, right? So you could, if you're familiar with React, you would already see what's going on here. Initially, give us some components for like doing things like head.
Yeah.
You could do that. Then also layout is just like this. It's just pretty standard. This is why I like it, because if you're a React developer, you feel right at home, because
Hmm.
most of the time, 80% of the time, you're probably gonna be in the UI, which is the client. The backend is so boring, and I'll show you why. So let's see what do we need to do to display this page. So go to
Yeah.
routes, and you could see. So this is where we handle with. I don't like file-based routing. I'm sorry, it looks very ugly when you're doing dynamic routes. It just doesn't work for me. But this we have like a normal, like a DSL for route. So here we see like a
Okay.
get request will be handled by the view home action. We call them actions in Sail. So there's a home
Okay.
controller which is designated with a folder, and then everything inside that folder is called an action. So let's see what is in view home. You could see so we have something called machine, which was invented by Mike McNee as well. Is this
Okay.
nice DSL for defining what a function needs, called inputs, and the various ways the function can exit. And
Okay.
then we can use that to be like the action. So every input here will be like the what comes out from the user. So like when you're signing
Okay.
up will be an input. I'll show you that. Then you can see there's this success response or success exit with the response type of inertia. And
Okay.
all it needs to display this page, that's the index.gxs, is just to return an object with page. Then
Okay.
if you have props you're going to send from the backend, you just put them as props here, like so
Oh,
props,
okay.
then
Okay.
you put your props. Yeah,
And then
it's
they get
just that's
injected client
literally
side. Okay.
yeah, that's literally all you need to do for that.
Okay.
And yeah, show you something more involved. So let's look at basic login. I know these days we outsource login to third parties,
Yeah.
but this is how login. If something as simple as login, you could even learn a thing or two. So this is just like documentation. So find the name, description, a certain description, and these are the inputs. So the email is going to be sent from the form, right? And
Okay.
you could do all your validation here. So like your Zod things, the things you use for Zod, we have it built in Sales called Anchor.
Okay.
So you could do type string, it should be an email. So before the action is even run, it will run the validation to make sure that okay, every
Okay.
inputs are what we expect. If not, it's going to panic and just throw 400 bad
Okay.
request.
And
Then
a
yeah, go
quick
ahead.
question about the validation. So it'll happen in client side, but will it also take that into account server side, or is that separate, that validation?
Yeah, so this one would happen. So this is server-side validation. So you could do your normal client-side validation if you want, but I think all I need mostly for client-side validation is HTML required most of the time and type
Okay.
of email. So if any of those fail, this is server side, and it's going to send back the error to you, which I will show you in a
Okay.
demo really soon. Yeah. So we could do remember me boolean and all that. Then the exit. So if it's success, this was so we're going to redirect back
Okay.
to like the dashboard or something. Then bad combo request, and this is what gets run. So here we're using waterline because we have a model. So you could define model. It's so straightforward to define a model. Then you could, pass in the email. If we can't find the user with the email, then we throw
Okay.
a bad combo, which is this exit we did here already. So we throw the
Okay.
bad combo, and then we say this is the problem: wrong email or password. All
Okay.
right. And then we'll try. So if it passes, that means okay, the email is good. We have a user with that email. So let's try the password. So we have a helper called check password. You take in the password and the user password. So the one you send from the form and the one this user have, because they are all encrypted or hashed. So we're going to compare those hashes. And if it doesn't work, we're going to throw a bad combo again. And if everything is good, so remember me feature, we're just setting the max age of the cookie to anytime you
Okay.
want. So if it's like a week or so you want to do that. And then we just set a session data with this user, and that's it. You're logged
Okay.
in.
Okay.
Good
There's
old
a
session data. Yeah.
no, that's great. There's a couple questions in the chat. I'm not watching cat
Mhm.
videos. If you see me turning it, I'm just reading the chat. Um, uh, Mar Friends is asking, is the purpose of this to be more like a model schema? Because like you kind of have some, it does seem to have like some schema like stuff in it. Like the validation at least, and like the shape of things. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and-
I guess what you mean, but not so much. So first of all, there are two things you sort of see at once. One is the node machine spec. I wrote an article for Smashing Magazine to like talk about this. So the
okay.
node machine spec just give you. So this is a machine. It's going to take inputs and it's going to exit out in various ways. So
Okay.
those inputs, you could say that okay, this input one like this email is an input now, we say it's going to be of type string. This is what we're
Okay.
expecting. And all this is email required through type is from Anchor. So
Okay.
Anchor is the npm package, which is first parties in sales that does validation, just like Zod, but it comes baked into the
Okay.
framework. So it's high level validation. This is it. I could send you the
Okay.
link if you want. And we also have something called ROTTC, which I won't get into. So it's like type checking is like TypeScript, but at runtime, which we've had in sales for like a very long time. So
Okay.
that's it. So it's not a validation schema. It's just like every input instead of you to do, because typically you would want to do some checks here in the action. If this an email, you don't have to
Okay.
do that because we already have Anchor to do that for you at the top.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Cool. And then
mhm.
there was another question. Fuzzy was saying, I want to hear more on the thoughts that inspired the development. What are the pain points you're addressing, and what did you
Mhm.
experience while developing this? Like, so I guess I don't know if you can answer this because like you didn't
Yeah,
create
for sure.
sales, but I'm sure you have some insights into this, maybe.
Yeah, so I think I could touch on a couple. I can touch on why I built the Boring Stack altogether and why sales was even built itself. I think
Okay.
we've actually touched on that before in the beginning, which is Mike, who is the BDFL of sales and also the maker, wanted a way to quickly build real-time application.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of inspiration from Rails. He wanted like a Rails for JavaScript, but with real time built into it, because back then he was building applications for different clients and they wanted like real time applications. So like it was a lot.
Okay.
Even there are a lot of like Postman uses sales, Paystack uses
Oh,
sales.
I didn't know that.
So
Okay.
yeah, like they have a couple of microservices on sales, Postman a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and so Paystack is like Stripe, but for Africa. So
Okay.
anytime you use any of their public API, you're actually talking to sales. All right. So he
Oh,
wanted
cool.
like a way to quickly, yeah, build full stack Node.js app and also and also API. So that's why it built sales. And yeah, and it just worked with a lot of things we've done to just not that it works, it's also secure and it's stable because we wanted stability is at the core. We want stability to be a feature in sales
Hmm.
so that you're sure because we are still at 1.x and it's at feature parity to like almost anything out there, or it does even more as
Okay.
well. So for the borrowing stack, why I built the borrowing stack is that if you are a React developer, a Vue developer, a Svelte developer that just like the component and you don't
Hmm.
want the hassle of those new things, SSR, ISR, like all those new things out there that just a lot of complexity, but the only thing you like is the DSL of GXS or Vue single file component or Svelte, then you want to pair it with something that is as robust as an MVC framework like Sails that give you everything you would need to piece yourself and everything you have to delegate to a third party, but you want it local, then you should definitely look at the borrowing stack. Because that was the pain I had, which is like I wanted to build single page applications. I like the Vue single
Okay.
file components, but I don't want to use Noxt. I don't want to use anything that have all this extra that
Okay.
they give you a lot, but at the same time they don't give you a lot. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And
Hmm.
and you,
Yeah.
I guess you really wanted the back end separated from the front. Like it sounds like you didn't want to use a meta framework. Like,
Well, meta frameworks are not true backend frameworks, if we're being honest, because they like I was using Noxt, but I still had to use Sales API because it wasn't a true backend framework. And I saw a post, I think yesterday, where someone was saying they built like they used the Next.js API routes and it was using what 1,200 kilobytes of memory or something, and then they switched to Express and it was using way below that. It just tell you that
okay.
they don't really shine when it comes to true backends. So I wanted like a true backend, but everything in one code base and
Okay.
work seamlessly together. So yeah, so like
Yeah.
for the validation thing, I think I finally have this one on. I had
Okay.
to nuke that.
That's all good.
So let's just do this. Yeah. So you could see this is what we saw the other time from the server, but now
Yeah.
it could send it to like the client and be like, okay, that's wrong. We don't really have that. So we could log in now,
Hmm.
and it's probably gonna spit it there. Okay. Okay, I can't already exist with this email. See, really nice. So I'm going to
Okay.
just put something like that. Yeah. Then we could check. So now we have our validation token. I want to
Okay.
copy
Yeah.
it. I don't want it to open my
Since
default
since
browser.
that email isn't yours. Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Eh, Yeah,
uh,
it's no, it's so I sent this to the console, like just like the last time, because we don't want to like send it live. We just want to test everything in the console, and then my email is verified, and then I get like my dashboard and
okay.
everything. So by default, when you do NPS create sales, you have this for you to customize and to use. So basic, everything is basic, but
Okay.
it's like way more than you'd get if you want to like build and piece these things yourself. So you have like a really nice starter for you to just build your apps
Okay.
from start to finish. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and
Hmm.
also, hi, Jian and Turan from India. Good to have you here. And yeah, there was a bit of talk about Astro. Fuzzy used to be on the Astro core team, and Mar Friends was
Okay.
saying you can use Astro with all these templating syntaxes, but Fuzzy's saying it does have that, but there's still like some spaces in that. Like real time spas are not really Astro's forte. Like, so
Yeah.
I think they
Yeah.
were just discussing
Definitely.
that while you were going through your stuff here.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, these are, yeah, like this seems like I've never used this, but like what you're showing me here seems pretty straightforward. I mean, once you get used to that syntax, but
Yeah.
like it's
Hmm.
it's kind of declarative, like remember
Yeah.
me, this. Well, maybe not declarative, is maybe not
Yeah.
the right term because it's kind of imperative.
Yeah.
Well, it's declarative in the sense that like you're not like doing like the validation's already handled by something. You're just you're declaring what you
Yeah.
want. So yeah, it is declarative.
Exactly. Like it feels like what you would give to Zod,
Hmm.
but so it's like Zod, but it's already first party in sales. So you just do this. So it works for both inputs for your actions and helpers. So helpers
Okay.
are way to like when you have code that you want to reuse. So we have helpers there. So if we look at API, we look at helpers. So let's say like this one, this is a helper, and you could see the input is just the full name. And I want to make sure that if you're going to call this helper, you must have a full name. So it's required.
Yeah.
So if you don't pass it, it's going to complain. All right. And then
Yeah.
all we're doing is that we just split. So this is like just the simple stuff that just splits. Then you return the initials of the
Okay.
user. So and you could see we're still using the same syntax. These are shell scripts, the same
Okay.
syntax. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. And you can obviously
Mm-hmm.
like you're saying like
Mm-hmm.
there's not so much focus on the client side validation. Like at the end of the day, the server side validation is the most important because that's where you're storing the
Yeah.
data. But there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
stopping you like from adding
Yeah.
more to the front end if you want to. Like
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like I definitely so the experience you have is as if you're just writing um client side code, especially when you're in here. So
yeah.
here you could, I think maybe there should be like some logic somewhere I could show. So let's say like the login, you could see we're using use form. We could do your use memo. Like so this one we are so what disabled the button is all client side.
Okay.
So you could do as much as you want client side to do anything. So it just give you this nice pair where you could go crazy on the client, but you have
Okay.
this very solid backend that could also like do all that for you. So you could pair. So you want to go crazy with the front end, go
Okay.
ahead. But your yeah, everything is still secure. So everything, even though the form submission is also client side as well. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of it's up to you, but like at a minimum, you have like the standard server side validation.
Mhm.
Okay. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like obviously you're oh, and Mar Friends is saying, can you provide patterns and regexes and how, you know how
Yes, you
like
can.
the okay, cool, okay,
Yeah, you can.
uh,
You can. So I think they're talking about this one, like this one. So you could do a custom validation.
okay,
So let's see. So we do validation sales. So about that. So if we do
oh yeah, no
custom,
worries,
yeah. Oh, okay. Let me do regex. So you could pass in regex
okay,
just the same way you could pass in this type string. You could come here and do regex and whatever you want to do.
okay,
Yeah, it works.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's up to you. So like you can have the out of the box stuff or
Hmm.
just go custom. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And okay, so you might have missed this at the beginning, Fuzzy, but Fuzzy's asking about what's the TypeScript support like, and I'm kind of gonna throw that question again too, because like I know you
Yeah.
said
Sure.
in sales you don't really use it, but do you leverage JS doc or something or
Yeah. So this is it. Fuzzy. So we use RS build for our front end. So that means every file in here can be .tsx, and you write your TypeScript, and it works, right?
okay,
So all your JavaScript in your client JavaScript, you could just do that. I don't write TypeScript personally, that's why it's but you could literally just rename it .css
okay,
and it will
um,
do what. But of course, this is TypeScript madness that happened. So it works out of the box for your client side. For the backend, because we have Anchor and ROTTC, it's actually going to be like a thing I will talk about next year at SalesConf. We have the same experience or even more as if you're using TypeScript. But the only thing is the editor tooling won't doesn't support it quite yet. That's why I'm working on the language server, which will hook into all these definitions. So just for example, we could hook into all this definition here
okay,
and make sure that the language server be able to tell the client that okay, this email is of type string and is supposed to be an email. So
yeah,
if anything, we could give you all those nice things you like the diagnostics and the autocomplete, all because we have a language server. Because that's literally how TypeScript is implemented for like things like editor toolings. There's a language server that understand TypeScript and send all those information back at you. So I'll be working at it. Should be ready like maybe at SalesConf to
Okay.
just like give you all those rich TypeScript thing you need, but you have the .js file. We love the .js file in Sales Core.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and then Fuzzy saying, "Ah, gotcha, interesting." And
Yeah.
then yeah, Mar Friends is saying, "Welcome to my world. I lost account of the files in the project, and there is not even JS doc. There's like 4 to 7 thousand lines of JavaScript code. Once you learn to navigate the chaos, no need for TypeScript. You just learn to pray." Um, yeah, it's uh, I will be honest. I'm a fan of TypeScript. I mean, I've written
Yeah.
tons of like plain JavaScript. Uh, I I personally prefer to write in TypeScript. Like obviously if the team you're on, it's like or the like I'm working on some contract work right now, and it's not TypeScript. It's
Hmm.
JavaScript, and I was fixing a bug yesterday, and I was just
Yeah.
debugging and looking in the console, seeing what was going on, and then it was just because if there was types there of some sort or some kind of validation, it would have signaled to me right away, oh,
Yeah.
it's because you didn't pass this field when, like, basically it required a
Yeah.
update time for committing something and it wasn't there, and is a new
Yeah.
project I was on, so I just wasn't familiar with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
I
yeah, I
I I like the what TypeScript gives, but I don't like TypeScript. The I think I'm very vocal about it. Like so when I think about it, what the people really enjoy is the feedback, literally.
mhm,
And that's not just provided by TypeScript .ts, it's provided by the editor. So if I
mhm,
can give you the same behavior, like everything we've spoken about, if you want to know if okay, if you mix a config or whatever, if you have a typo and all that, we could how do other languages do it in the editor? It's just to have a language server protocol that
yeah,
understand sales deeply and then give you others feedback. But that's what you truly need. But if you want TypeScript, like I said, for your clients, for your components, you could go crazy and just change it to the TSS and it
yeah.
works out of the box and do all your TypeScript magic. Yeah.
Yeah, the funny thing about VS Code and probably other editors like JetBrains, like WebStorm and stuff is, it, I know for sure for VS Code at least, it's like when somebody's like, I don't like TypeScript, it's like okay, but what they don't realize is VS Code's built with
Yeah.
TypeScript, and
Yeah.
basically TypeScript is what gives you the refactoring abilities, even if you're in JavaScript and
Exactly.
stuff. So it always makes me kind of giggle a bit when somebody's like, I absolutely hate TypeScript, but I love VS Code. So,
Yeah.
but
Right. Yeah. Like
yeah,
yeah, I like all the TypeScript that people write. Like I enjoy it so much, especially VS Code, like all the things we like you could definitely use type checking for this JavaScript file today in VS Code, and it was because TypeScript know how to look at JS file and try to like validate them. But I don't want to write it.
yeah,
I don't it doesn't work for me. I don't want to do colon string and all those type generics,
hmm
not for me. I it makes me sad anytime I have to write it.
um, well, the other thing too is like it depends where you're at. Like if you're a library author,
Mhm.
uh, a lot of them, like, people demand TypeScript, whether you write it in TypeScript or not. Like as long as you're revealing types and stuff. But
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
typically you'll write more complex TypeScript types in a library. Like for example, like I was
Yeah.
talking to Tanner Lindsley from TanStack because we both gave talks at the Netlify Compose conference, and he just has complex types in there because he needs them to be for what he's doing. But me as a consumer of like something from TanStack, like whether it's TanStack
Yeah.
query, you typically don't have to write types because a lot of these things get inferred. But so like I think typically it's more library authors that have to worry about super complex types. It's not that you won't necessarily have to, but I would say typically in like application land where you're consuming these packages, it's rare that you need to build a complex type because you're going to say like call that thing that returns some complex type, but it's going to set your variable to that type. So like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So a lot of times you can write TypeScript where it just looks like all JavaScript, like not all the time,
Mhm.
um, but it's
Yeah.
also interesting too because it's like there's a line between like the line because like I did a lot of C# before, so like and C# was created by the same person that created TypeScript, Anders Hallsberg, and so like I was used to generics already. I was used to all the types, but it's definitely I think intimidating for somebody who's never done a type language potentially, because like
Mhm.
it, because it kind of goes against the dynamic language. You could just be like, I'm just gonna do whatever, somewhere randomly in the code, you're just gonna add a property to that object,
Yeah.
Whereas like TypeScript would say like, oh no, you can't do that because that type's not there, or maybe you make it optional at that point. But it's like
Yeah.
it's a balance, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, anytime I speak like this, I think the sentiment will be like, okay, probably I'm not used to typed languages, but my background before I became in love with JavaScript, I've written Go, I've written Dart, I've written Swift. So I
Okay.
love the types in those languages, but
Yeah.
I do not like the type in TypeScript.
Yeah, it's
And
it's
if
funny.
yeah.
Not to turn this into a TypeScript stream now, but like I think it's different because like JavaScript is definitely it's obviously a dynamic language and it has a lot of quirks, and so
Mhm.
I think the reason it's just a guess, but I'm guessing you don't like the types in some cases because TypeScript is building the types to accommodate how JavaScript actually behaves, including the quirks. And I think that's why, like, whereas like if you write Go or like C#, those quirks don't exist, and you don't have to. And it's also about not breaking the web, so you can't, you can't. You can add
Yeah.
new things to the
So
language and stuff. It's a combo of stuff, but
yeah, and that and mostly because in those language type is native. I don't have to compile anything to
okay.
.js at the end of the day. So like I see there's a proposal to bring type hinting to JavaScript. I'm
Oh yeah,
all for it.
yeah,
So first things is trivial, but I do not want to write .ts. I want to see .js. If you're going to put types in .js, be my guest. I'm going to love it. Of course, make it optional because of course
yeah,
there are times where you should infer. In fact, even the type inference is something that it's in other languages is there, but I see a lot of verbose TypeScript code where we know that this variable should be a string because you assign it a string. Why are
yeah,
you doubling telling it will be a string again? So
yeah.
it just doesn't make sense to me in terms of like the practice, the tooling. But I like types, but I just don't like TypeScript. So
Okay.
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
sometimes though, like if you're newer to TypeScript, you probably overtype things where you don't need to as well. Um,
Yeah.
Fuzzy saying, "I'm sorry, I can't get with this argument." Yeah, I am a fan of TypeScript too, and I do like types. I think they make sense. It's
Hmm.
it, it's kind of like it is a language, but it's also like you mentioned tooling, and like a lot of that is really like similar to stuff like ESLint and stuff. Like you can't do this, and it's like the types are kind of like guardrails to say like no, you're holding it wrong, and um,
Yeah.
it's yeah. Like
Mhm.
he's saying, do you code in raw assembly? I'm
I
laughing
don't.
because I'm laughing
I
because in
don't.
university I took an assembly course.
Oh wow.
But no, I would not want to code in it. I had a CEO of one of the first companies I worked at. He actually wrote a video game in assembler, and I'm like, how did you
Oh
even
my
do
god.
that? Like, you know, there's a reason why
That's
language exists on top. Well, maybe back in the day that's all you could do, I guess, but definitely not something I'd
yeah.
want to tackle. So
Yeah, and it's all about mostly about taste really, right? Because I see like a lot of people that like TypeScript, I they like they can't live without TypeScript. And I've tried TypeScript and I'd be like, no. If I'm gonna have joy to work on a code base, it cannot be TypeScript. And it's fine because I know people who cannot write JavaScript code without TypeScript. So it's all about taste. We all can, as is so far our codes work and the bugs because before TypeScript, how were we catching those bugs? There have always been tools, and even now you could use JS docs to do this the same thing. Like
Yeah.
some of my code base, we use a lot of JS doc to make sure that okay, you get the same autocomplete, the same type hinting and other kind of stuff. So there's always going to be like an alternative, but it's not just like the end all be all. I don't want to see a world where we all write TypeScript. It's going to make me sad.
Yeah, no, I think JS
Mm,
doc is definitely a nice compromise, I
mm,
think, too, for some people. Like,
yeah,
for example, Svelte and also the Preact JS project, they both use JS doc instead of. I think Svelte was
yeah,
originally using TypeScript, and I think they were running
mm-hmm,
into slow build times, and so they just opted for JS doc. It's a I think JS doc is definitely better than not having anything.
yeah,
Like if you put the types in and stuff, I just find it's a little clunkier to type it that way, but it's still doable.
mm-hmm,
And
yeah,
and this gets back to like, I mean, like I don't have the article handy, but like there's a whole blog post I think from Rich Harris from Svelte talking about why they moved to it, and um,
yeah.
I
I
think
saw
one of
that.
the things was build time. Um, for Preact, I'm not sure because Preact is already super teeny. Like I'm always amazed how like the people on the Preact team just keep making it smaller and smaller. It's like
Yeah,
I don't know. It's like
that's amazing.
it's pretty amazing. But
Mm-hmm,
yeah, I'm pretty sure they're JS doc as well. But and
yeah,
I guess it depends what you're doing too, right? Like if you don't need a
mm-hmm,
build step and you can still get the typings, then that's probably a
yeah,
win. And maybe also the push with ESM. So like maybe there's less bundling at the library level, maybe. But I think for apps still, like I know people say like you don't need to bundle, but I think if you're building a complex app, you still have to
mm-hmm,
bundle. Like you know, it's like
yeah,
you could do it without it, but it's a little more complicated, and I think there's still benefits to the bundling. So, but
mm-hmm.
anyways, like I said, we don't need to derail the all things sales with all this stuff, but it's
Yeah,
still interesting
it's
conversation.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like we're getting close to time here, but I'm curious, like, what are you excited about for the project? Like, you're working on the new get pulling out grunt like you were saying at the beginning there, which
Yeah.
will with
Mm-hmm.
I know some people at the beginning weren't here, so you were mentioning basically it uses grunt for a task runner right now to do builds and
Yeah.
generate the assets and stuff, and you have a is it PR up or is it just exploratory right now with RS build? I can't remember if you said it was
Yeah,
um,
it's so right now as we running this, so this project runs on iOS build via Shipwright. So you can see iOS build here. So this is the React plugin, and this is
mhm,
hook Shipwright. It's like the hook that makes sure that okay, when you run sales lift, it's gonna bundle your stuff. So when you make a new project, you're definitely using that today. So it's at 0.1.
mhm,
I think the last version I shipped was 0.1. So, and it gives you everything like live reload and everything. Like everything you get in
yeah,
Vite, you get it here
yeah.
and even more. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So it's a better developer experience, faster,
Yeah.
like basically
Mhm.
like all the modern stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I'll just reiterate some stuff you mentioned because I know Fuzzy wasn't here at the beginning, but you had tried Veet initially and it wasn't. I can't remember the
Yeah.
reason you said it wasn't working.
Yeah, it didn't work for me because of I think Vite is more tailored to like ESM and a lot of stuff. Sales is CGS because we've been out before ESM, and to use it at the like to make the server work the way we need it in a full stack framework like Sales, it was really tricky. So I tried ES Build, I tried Vite, and then I finally tried RS Pack, but RS Pack was also too low level because I wanted as
Hmm.
minimum a config as possible. Then RS Build was like the Vite counterpart, but based on RS Pack, and the API was just elegant enough to like just make it work. So
Okay.
if we even look at Shipwright, let me just explain what because we are all coders here. You could see this is literally how we could run the dev server
Okay.
when so we could call the we could make an iOS build instance to make a dev server, and we don't want it to actually control the traffic. So Sales
Okay.
has that already, right? But we just want that dev server on. So this was like how I was able to do it, and then we put in the WebSocket thing so that we could do hot module replacement and
Okay.
all. So yeah, it was just super easy to work with.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, whatever works, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you did the work to see like because yeah, Vite's pretty
Yeah.
standard now, but RS Pack, RS Build still pretty new, but it's pretty compelling. I know there's some other projects using RS Pack. I can't remember one of the
Yeah.
frameworks
So
supports it now. I can't remember which, but
yeah, I think Docusaurus they moved to ours pack, and it's not really new. I think it's been around for like a couple of years now, and it's been
yeah.
like what's been like driving the tech at ByteDance. So for their stuff like TikTok and or like most of their apps, it really has smart people working on it, and I sort of like that they are building from like a business needs and like from the need of an actual business with different l- hundreds of components and moving parts, and they needed something that would actually take that load. So I could rest knowing that okay, these people are
Hmm.
investing so much to make sure that this tech is good and good enough for me, because in sales you wouldn't even care what is running your build, because
Hmm.
it's if it's fast, that's you won't care. If it's slow, of course you care, but because
Yeah.
it's fast, it just works. Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. Cool, cool.
Mhm.
No, this has been super, super cool and interesting. I'm gonna drop some links again where people can give you a
Mhm.
follow, Kelvin, and I'm gonna drop a
Thanks.
link to the sales project again. And yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's been super cool. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to shamelessly plug aside from sales, like if you got courses or your YouTube channel. I mean, um,
Yeah.
if
I just yeah, I do two podcasts these
okay,
days. TKYT, which is like my technical podcast,
okay,
and then there's the newsletter Building Businesses on JavaScript, which is like the more business podcast. So I've
okay,
done like how many episodes? I've done 65 episodes on TKYT with different people. So you could all go check it
TKYT.
out.
Okay,
And yeah,
I'll drop that.
TKYT. So the last one was on X15 with Lee Robinson. It was really amazing. He shared a lot
Oh,
of
that's cool.
good stuff. Yeah,
Nice.
it's so I think that was 1/11th. Yeah. So
Okay,
I have one featured on mm, Hotwire Native, so you could check that out. Then the
okay,
newsletter. So if you're at the intersection between tech and business, you'd like the newsletter.
okay,
I have really amazing guests like Ken Seedorts. It came on. I think it was one of the last episodes. Yeah, the
okay.
same. Yeah, and the guy from Screambar. So that's my newsletter and the stuff. And you all should give the Boring Stack a try. Let me know what you think.
Yeah,
Just go try it out by running nps create sales, your project name dash dash react, and let me know what you think when you try it out and build something. It's not for demos, for actual
yeah.
projects. So it's very
Okay.
heavy, like
And
everything you need. Yeah.
okay, cool, cool. Yeah, I'm
Hmm.
just gonna go ahead and drop that command in the chat if people want to give that a go. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me. I know we're in pretty different time zones, so glad we could get something
Yeah.
working here. And yeah, no, this is
Hmm.
awesome. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop a link to the schedule. Um, there's not too much going on for the rest of November, but I think it's early December. Let me just check. I'm gonna be hanging with when is it? Yeah, on December 5th, I'm gonna be hanging with Daichi Kato, who's the creator of Waku, the minimal React framework. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Nice.
for anybody interested in that, that's gonna be December 5th. It's early my time, like 8 a.m. Eastern, because Daishi is over in Japan. So I was going towards what worked best for his schedule. So, but that'll be another interesting talk, and then I'm sure we'll have some more guests in the new year. It's December is also kind of Christmas for me and stuff, so it'll probably slow down a bit, but I'll be live streaming a bit on my own again. I've just been pretty busy lately.
Nice.
Anyways, cool. Well, thanks again, Kelvin. And if you don't mind just staying on for 1 second, and everybody else,
Oh,
thanks so much for hanging in the chat today. Great conversations and questions. And we'll see you in the next one. And
yeah.
take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody. Yeah.